When this little boy was born, his parents Mary and Robert were so shocked by his appearance that they felt they couldn't take care of him and gave up the child. But decades later fate brought them together again. Mary and Robert were childhood friends, and their parents were not well off financially, so they couldn't afford to send them to college. After graduating from high school, Mary got a job at a restaurant while Robert worked at a factory. They earned little but had to make ends meet. The couple thought a lot about the future, so they saved a lot of money, and when they had enough they got married and started thinking about starting a family. They were both very attractive and were sure they would give birth to beautiful children. While dating, they fantasized about having beautiful children who would parade on the catwalks. But sometimes life doesn't give us what we want, and that's exactly what happened to this couple. A few months after getting married, Mary became pregnant, and an exam revealed that she was pregnant with a boy. Robert was thrilled to have a boy and boasted that the boy would look like him. The future father made all the necessary preparations. He worked twice as hard and bought all the necessary things for the baby. He also promised Mary that when the baby was 2 years old, they would move to a bigger apartment. Unfortunately, when the baby was born, that excitement faded away and was replaced by doubt, regret, and fear. Mary and Robert had weekly checkups, and all the results showed that the boy was in perfect health. During the pregnancy, everything went well. Mary was healthy, but it was like that until she went into labor one morning. On that day, the contractions began suddenly, and Mary was not prepared as the delivery was scheduled for 3 weeks later, so they didn't make the necessary preparations. Anyway, Robert quickly rushed Mary to the hospital. Upon arrival, she was taken to the delivery room. The contractions were so painful that Mary thought she would faint. 15 minutes later, the doctors delivered the baby, and as soon as they laid eyes on him, they were surprised. The boy, who later became known as Scotty, was born hunchbacked. Additionally, he also had excessive hair on his skin due to a condition called hypertrichosis. When Mary and Robert saw their baby, neither of them could hold back their tears. They didn't feel connected to him, and only an hour later did they finally have the courage to hold him. Robert was furious and stormed into the doctor's office in anger. "You said the child is in perfect health, then why is he like this?" he angrily asked the doctor. The doctors apologized and said that they didn't notice anything different in the exams. Later, he told the devastated parents that surgery could alleviate the baby's problems. Unfortunately, the cost of the operation was too expensive, and the couple couldn't afford it. Additionally, the doctor also told them that the boy would need extra care and attention. A few weeks later, the couple went home with Scotty. Unfortunately, the boy fell ill frequently, and the parents went to the hospital many times. One night, the couple had a big argument. "It's so difficult to take care of Paul. We don't even have enough money for his surgery. We won't be able to give him the kind of life he deserves. We have to give up on him," Robert said to his wife. Since Mary knew that Matthew wasn't earning enough money, she knew she couldn't quit her job to take care of Paul, who needed 24-hour attention. The couple asked their parents to help take care of the boy, but none of them complied. "What will people say if they see me with a boy that looks like this? Have you thought that maybe the child is not yours?" Robert's mother said to him. At that moment, the couple knew they had to send the boy to an orphanage. They felt like they were abandoning their son but were certain they couldn't take care of him. They had two options: let the boy go and have a better life, or keep him and see him suffer. Well, the couple opted for the first option. The necessary preparations were made, and in due time Robert and Mary said goodbye to their son and left his life forever. Paul grew up in the orphanage and became a well-educated, loving, and healthy boy. He was so sweet that all the staff quickly fell in love with him. Due to his health condition, the hump continued to grow and his body hair extended further and further, including on his face. Unfortunately, everyone who went to the orphanage didn't want Paul because of his physical appearance, and the orphanage staff feared that no one would ever give him a chance. However, When the boy turned 3 years old, a couple named Anna and Ian, who were almost 40 years old, wanted to adopt a child and went to the orphanage. This couple had been married for 20 years and had been trying to have children, but unfortunately couldn't. They had all the money in the world but still felt incomplete. One day, they went to the orphanage, and the staff took them to the children's classroom. When they entered, Anna and Paul exchanged glances immediately. At that moment, the boy smiled at Anna and waved his hands at her. Anna had been sad for a long time, and the boy's smile healed her soul. She felt an instant and strong connection with him. Anna's husband also liked Paul very much, and he felt a strong desire to make him happy. So the couple agreed to adopt the boy. The adoption process was quick, and a few weeks later, Scotty moved into the couple's mansion, and they welcomed him with love and care. The boy brought so much happiness to our lives that I cannot believe anyone would give up on such a sweet soul. I'm glad we gave him a chance, Ian said to his wife. A few months later, the couple paid for the surgery to remove Paul's hump. Unfortunately, there was no cure for the excess hair on his body. Although Paul received much love from his parents, he suffered bullying at school. One day, he grew tired of it and burst into tears. All the kids at school hate me. They mock me, call me a werewolf, Paul told his mother. Don't let their words get to you. Whenever they mock you, tell them that you are perfect and unique, Anna replied. That's not true. I'm not perfect. I want to look like the other kids. I want them to stop laughing at me, Paul said and cried a little more. The boy endured the bullying for a long time, and Anna was devastated because she knew that his classmates' words were finally getting to him. She couldn't find words to console him, so she just hugged him tightly and let him cry on her shoulder. The next morning, as Paul was getting ready for school, an idea occurred to Anna. She smiled happily, hugged the boy and said, If your classmates tease you, tell them that you'll become a doctor and find a cure for your condition. Paul immediately fell in love with the idea of being a doctor. Since then, whenever his classmates teased him, he would say, Just wait, I'll find a cure soon. At that moment, this boy would never imagine that his dream would lead him to his biological parents. Paul was eventually admitted to college and studied medicine, specializing in surgery. Unfortunately, he found that there was no cure for his condition, but he didn't let that bother him. After graduating, Paul landed a job at a surgical center and dedicated himself to saving lives. 5 years later, Paul was in his office when he received a call from a man who had been in an accident and needed emergency surgery. The exam showed that the man had a blood clot in his brain, and they asked Paul to operate on him. He quickly put on his uniform and rushed to the operating room. Little did he know that he was about to receive the biggest shock of his life. Immediately after Paul saw his patient, he froze. It was as if he was looking at himself in the mirror. He had a perfect resemblance to the man. They had the same eyes, nose, and facial structure, something very strange for the young man. Why did he look so much like this stranger? He thought. However, he pushed his thoughts aside and began the surgery. 4 hours later, the surgery was over and it was a success. After that, Paul went out to inform the man's family that the surgery was successful. When he left the room, he saw a woman waiting for her patient. She was old enough to be his mother. As soon as she saw Paul, she began to tremble and cry. Paul approached the woman and told her that the surgery was successful, but she continued to cry. When Paul was about to leave, the woman pulled him back. I'm sorry for crying. You remind me of my son. He was born hunchbacked and had excess hair, just like you. I'm so glad your parents didn't give up on you. Despite your condition, you have become a successful doctor. After that, she told Paul that she and her husband gave up on their son because they couldn't take care of him. We miss him every day. After we gave him up, we tried to have other children, but our efforts were in vain. It seems like the universe punished us for our sins, the woman said. Paul began to tremble and ran out of the room. His heart was beating fast. Was he the child the woman was referring to? When Paul got home, he told his parents everything. The next day, he went with Anna to the orphanage, and the records confirmed his suspicion. The sick man and the woman were really his biological parents. "If you want them to know about you, it's okay," Anna told Paul as he cried on her shoulder. The next day, Paul went to the room where Robert was recovering. Mary was also in the room. The young doctor gave a smile to the couple, and they had a light conversation. "Please be strong. Wherever your son is, I want you to know that he forgave you, and he understands why you gave him up," Paul said, holding back tears. And then he hugged the couple and left the room. Paul thought it was best not to reveal his identity to his biological parents. He didn't want to reopen old wounds. Everyone has a choice and they made theirs. "I'm happy to have met them, but you and Dad mean the whole world to me. Let's forget the past and focus on the present and the future. Thank you for adopting me when no one else wanted me," Paul said to Anna later that day. What do you think of Paul's decision? Let me know in the comments, and if you're not already subscribed, please do for more stories.